Hello everyone, Chris Guthrie here, host of SellerCast, and in today's episode I speak with Kendra, who's been selling on Amazon since middle of 2015, and she has a very unique relationship with her supplier to the point where a supplier actually read one of her reviews and then suggested a change on one of her products, and they went forward with that change. And so it's a really interesting story. She talks about that as we get into this podcast, and with just this one product, she's at about 10K per month with 2 more products on the way coming up very shortly. So I enjoyed this conversation, and I think you will as well. So let's start the show. Hello, everyone. Chris Guthrie here, host of SellerCast. And today's episode, I have Kendra here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's get into this. So how long have you been selling on Amazon for? And then we'll talk about your business and some of what you learned along the way as well.
I went live on August 5th of 2015. So I've been selling for about, 7 months now, right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's great. And so where are you at sales-wise?
Well, I actually just got my 1099-K a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And it's about 21,000. So
That's awesome.
Actually more like 22,000 in total gross sales.
Yeah, and so then for the month of January, then where do you think you're at now?
Month of January is about 10K.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So you're already, the first few months, of course, were lower, and then you started to really ramp it up. So that's great.
Right.
So 10K a month or so now.
It was actually a point of, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to sell anything to, oh gosh, I need to order more inventory. and it happened within like 2 months of starting out. So
that's great.
I was really pleasantly surprised.
That's great. Well, so we'll deconstruct how and what you're doing to get there as we go along here. But
Sure.
Let's begin with, what were you doing before you started selling on Amazon?
Well, what I have been doing, what I'm currently doing now, my day job, I'm a travel demand modeler. And the best way I can describe that is a meteorologist forecasts the weather, and a travel demand modeler forecasts how much traffic there's going to be in the future on streets and networks. So I deal a lot with data analysis and computer simulations and modeling.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay, so then what made you decide to start selling on Amazon then?
Well, there are a lot of reasons, but I guess the primary reason for me was just to have more time, to be more flexible with my time. And I really love the outdoors. I live in the Pacific Northwest like you do, and I love being outside. And I'm also kind of a semi-pro photographer. So I love being outside taking photography. And it was just, I was getting to the point where I've been in the public sector for about 13 years now. And there's just a lot of, you spend a lot of time at a desk in front of a computer. And I saw this as a way of freeing up some time so I could do more things that I really enjoy doing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's yep. I love it up here in the Pacific Northwest as well. So definitely, you're thinking about next snowboarding trip too. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So then now, so is private labeling the only thing you've been doing? Private labeling products, or were you also reselling or doing anything else in terms of selling on Amazon?
Yeah, private label is the only thing I'm doing right now. I mean, in the future, I'd like to move into digital products. Back in my college days, I did dabble a little bit with internet marketing. Back in the wild west days of internet marketing. This is like 1999 through 2003, and so I was really kind of greenhorn in a lot of ways, not just from an internet marketing standpoint, but just simply from a self-discipline point of view. And I think that in retrospect, knowing what I know now, I could probably kill it in internet marketing right now. Knowing what I know now, Amazon, this selling has really opened my eyes to a lot of different possibilities that I didn't really see back in the day. And I think a lot of that just had to do with my personal development more than anything else, to be honest. So yeah, right now, private label is the only thing I'm doing right now, though.
Okay, but then, so the digital products you're thinking about selling, that would be within your specific niche you're selling on Amazon.
Yeah,
right?
it would probably be start with my niche, simply because it's the lowest barrier to entry for me. I would like to sell a children's book at one point. Get into Kindle books, because you can, it's the same kind of business model in terms of getting reviews and marketing your product. It's really the same model. It's just that it's in the book space instead of a private label. So
Hmm.
I'm really interested in learning more about that and developing some ideas I've had kind of on the back burner for quite some time now. I love to write, and I love. I'm kind of a easygoing person and kind of a child at heart. So I wanted to really use that medium as a way of getting myself out there. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
great. Yeah, and I think that the thing too that a lot of people seem to forget about, people that are newer that are starting selling, maybe people that have been selling longer don't think of this, but selling on Amazon is just one of many different marketplaces you can potentially sell really anything, right? You could
Right.
sell your products on other channels, your own website, etc. But since there's so much traffic on Amazon, that's just where a lot of the discussion's focused at. But that's great. So then, what about your goals for this type of business? You're doing about 10K a month now.
Right.
What are you trying to do as you head into the year? Are you trying to scale it up and then eventually sell? Are you looking to try and get to a certain amount of products and then stay? Just always, everyone I talk to, it's different. And I know for the last couple of episodes, I've talked to people that all are right around the same amount of experience in terms of how long they've been selling. So curious to see what you say.
Yeah, for me, my primary goal for my business is to scale. Um, I quickly realized just through the Amazon selling community, and it's such a great community that to really succeed. I mean, and everyone has different quantifiers for success, right? But for me, it's basically breaking free of that 9 to 5 grind. And for me, basically, that means getting about 5 to 6 products, yielding about the same amount as I'm yielding right now in gross profits per month. So if I can do that, and for me, it's just a matter of scaling to the point where I can break free
Hmm.
of the lifestyle that I've had for you know almost 2 decades. So it's for me, it's just a matter of scaling up to that point. I don't really have a hard and fast number in terms of how many products it's going to take. If it takes 6, that's great. If it takes 10, fine. I just know that if I replicate what I'm doing right now, that it's gonna work. I have that much confidence in the system and in myself as a seller right now that I know I could do it. So it's not a matter of if; it's just a matter of when.
Yeah, and then certainly, once you do make that leap, you'll have additional time to be able to do more as well. So that's great.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so then about how much time are you spending on the business? You mentioned you're in the the data modeling for future traffic and all that right now for your day job, but how much time are you spending on your Amazon business?
It really varies. At the beginning, I was putting in probably 25 to 30 a week on it, just because I was learning and I was trying to assimilate as much information as possible. Now I'm doing maybe 10 to 15. Now it's kind of inventory specific where, if I have an inventory order coming in and I need to get all that processed out and I need to give stuff to my supplier and I need to give them packing designs and images and getting product listings up and all that, then I put in a little bit more time. But in actuality, I think I've spent less time now than I did in the past on it, because a lot of it is replicable. You can copy and paste customer service replies and all that. So I've created kind of a good system that works within the scheme of my current workflow, so that I can kind of optimize my time a bit better.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. And you mentioned before, it sounded like you had just one product right now. So
Right, just
is
one.
that correct? Okay.
That's correct. I have two in production right now that should be ready by the end of Chinese New Year. So I
Oh, okay.
have
So there'll
two
be
in the pipeline, but I only have one that's actually selling right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then what are your initial inventory orders you're planning on doing for these new products?
I'm doing. Let's see. This one is actually kind of a variation on my original. So I'm doing 1,000 for that one, and I'm doing 500 for a completely different product that's in the same kind of niche as my other two products, but completely different. So I'm doing 500 of that one because it's a little, it's in unfamiliar territory, and I'm not too sure as how well it will perform yet. So I want to minimize my risk a little bit more on that one.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so along the way, then, you're with your own product. I mean, what are the problems you've run into? Are there any specific mistakes that you had made, and then maybe what you learned from this?
I really lucked out. I lucked out in the initial, from the product selection to finding the right supplier. I didn't run up against any problems with quality or any of the kind of the common problems that you would, you would typically come up against with a first product. I think the only mistake I really made was probably not ramping up my reviews. I mean, getting the customer feedback and getting my promos out, and really getting that kind of priming that pump at the onset, because I was so unsure about whether or not I was even going to just sell one, that I was so focused on just selling that one. And within a day, I had already sold one. I mean, it was to a friend, but who cares? It was, Amazon doesn't care. Sale's a sale. And and from that point forward, I mean, it only took me about a month to quickly realize that if I really wanted to make some sales, I was going to need to get I was going to need to get reviews. And so then after a month of kind of being somewhat wishy-washy on getting reviews, I made a concerted effort to kind of light a fire under myself and say, okay, you need to get this done. Go seek out some VIP reviewers, um, get some top 1,000 reviews in, get some video reviews in, and really make that concerted effort to get that going. And once that happened, once I hit like the 15 review point, it was lights out. I mean, it was really a matter of just getting those 15 initial reviews in. And once I had that, it was I gained traction on my product, and I haven't had any real slowdown in sales since then.
Nice. And then you've been just stacking more organic reviews and everything else on top of that
Right.
then.
It all the org. I mean, after about, I think I'm trying to think off the top of my head how many, actual promo giveaways I did, and I think I only did maybe 20 altogether.
Mhm.
Um, and of those 20, they were kind of quasi. I mean, they weren't like 100% off. They were, discounted, and they were scattered so that some were 50%, some were 75%. There wasn't really any set percent in terms of promo, discounted off. I kind of mixed it up a little bit because I was still kind of uneasy about how Amazon was going to interpret the reviews. And, you know, during, during my launch phase was during the whole time Amazon came out with her whole TOS changes. It was like in September. So,
Yeah.
so I was like, great, I'm just getting started, and then they have to change the terms of service. And so now it's just like, okay, they're gonna, there's no control over when they're gonna change it. It's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
just roll with the punches, right? But at the beginning, when you're starting off, you're just kind of, you feel like you're walking on, eggshells. You don't know what's going to happen. You feel like every single little move you make is scrutinized. So I was a little apprehensive at the beginning, but now it's just like, I just want my reviews, get them as fast as possible. I got them. Okay, good. Now I can move on to the next phase.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is everyone should know this by now, that especially once they start selling, or really especially if they've done any other business in the past, that the only thing that's a constant is change, right? Everything is always constantly changing. And so you've got to be adapting. And frankly, I think
Right,
that's what's half
exactly.
the fun is with any business, is just being able to change and adapt strategies and try new tactics and everything else. But okay, so let's talk
Right.
about, your very first product is doing well. 10,000 a month is great. And a lot of people that are listening, whether they're new and just starting out, or if they're experienced sellers, they probably would like that, have an extra product doing 10,000 a month. So what did you do to find your product? Was there something specific or different that you did in terms of finding the product you went with?
I really didn't. I mean, I was initially, looking for something between 500 and 5,000, and I like to say I didn't really choose my product. The product chose me. And I mean, I don't know if that sounds kind of cheesy, but it
I wasn't going to say anything.
but it was a matter of like finding. I mean, I just developed a list of products that were all within a certain range, and that had a good sales volume, and had I used merchant words to kind of cross analyze what the traffic was going to be like for that particular product. And I knew that the one that I chose was in it's in a I'm in the home and kitchen space, so it's one of the biggest spaces on Amazon next to consumer electronics, I think. So I knew that if I picked something within the 1,000 to 2,000 range, that I was still going to be getting a good sales volume in. And the particular product I have, there was no problem with the amount of search volume coming into that for that particular product. My product is a very popular product,
Mm.
so I didn't see anything. And the thing is that I didn't really want to pick anything that was too low in the BSR range, simply because I wanted to give myself a really good opportunity to succeed. And I knew that if I were to enter a really highly competitive product or category, that I would reduce my chances of succeeding. And for me, from a personal point of view, that initial success for me was very important to see that it was validation that I was doing something right. So I wanted to minimize my risk as much as possible. And so that was just kind of a strategy on my point, from my point of view. In retrospect, I probably would shoot for something that was lower, knowing what I know now. but 7 months ago, I wasn't as confident. So
Yeah. And when you say low, you mean like as in
uh,
more sales.
right, a lower
Yeah,
BSR.
since we're always
Yeah,
since we're always it's
I know
back,
it's always
reverse for
backwards. I know
BSR.
I always get that confused, but yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great though. You get the first one
yeah,
out, 1,000, 2,000 range in a bigger category, and then you get some initial traction and you can use that to go into the next thing. So that's great. So the other question too I was curious about is along the way when you're doing your research, were there any products that you or categories that you specifically just thought, okay, there's a reason I don't want to go into those? And this could just be from your own thought process, or you had experience trying to source the product from there before you got some samples or something, just something that can help people that are thinking about what they'd like to do.
yeah. I mean, for me, it was a matter of once I came up with a short list of products, I was just like, I could easily say, this product I can't get behind. I couldn't. I didn't have any sort of emotional connection with it. And I feel like when you're starting out, it kind of is important to have some sort of emotional passion for whatever you're selling, because it gives you a better perspective on what your customers are going to want, and then you're able to brand it more effectively
Hmm.
to the consumer. Now, once you've developed that brand, then you can add products to that brand, and you may not be as emotionally connected to it. But if it's in that same category, you can kit that brand, and you can cross sell and cross promote those things, and then you're not married to just they say don't become married to to your product, right? Well, I wholeheartedly agree. You should be married to a product. You should be married to your brand,
Yeah.
and you because otherwise there's no incentive for you to move it to the next level. If you want a multi-million-dollar brand, then you need to project it in a way that people are going to be able to connect to emotionally, because a lot of people's purchases are based upon an emotional connection, not so much you know a, a physical connection. It's like you need to push their buy button. So how are you going to do that?
Definitely.
You need to connect with them in an emotional way. So if you can't interject your own passion into that, then it's a lost cause. I mean, at the end, I mean, you may see some initial success just simply because it's a popular product, but if you want to really expand the brand to something bigger, then you're going to have to put a little bit more effort into it.
Yeah. And so then along that way, what did you do to help distinguish your products from your product rather from your competitors?
Um, I just listen to basically I listen to the customer. I use the product myself, so I know how to use it. I know what it's used for. I know what it's good. I know what it's good for. I know its strong points. I know its weak points. And I go on blogs. I go on forums. I go on I troll my customer review page. I troll blog pages, and I just read about what they're talking about about my product itself, and also about the category it's in. And I'm constantly learning about it, and then I convey those things to my supplier. I also have probably the best supplier on the earth, I think. My supplier checks in on my product on Amazon. They read the reviews. They actually created a modifier to my product based upon one 4-star feedback review that they read on my page. They're
Oh,
like,
wow.
"Hey, this is the customer brought this up. We can do this for you." And it's only it only will cost you about 30 cents more to the unit cost. And I'm like,
Yeah.
let's do it. So that's a whole story in and of itself. It's kind of opened up a can of worms for me. But I'm working through that, and it's not a big deal. I mean, it's gonna end up being great for my product in the long haul. So, but I'm just constantly keeping up with what the trends are in my category, and really reading what the feedback is from my customers, and interacting with them, and making sure that their needs are taken care of, and then just conveying that to my supplier. My supplier's been very responsive for all that.
Yeah. So is this something then that came about from the relationship you built with your supplier, or were they just that good after you start working with them?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think I just I'm very interested in the Chinese culture, and so I kind of understand a little bit about how Chinese business works. I kind of knew a little bit about it from MBA school. I have an MBA, so I learned. I had took some classes and some supplementary courses on doing business in China and international business. And one of the things that I understood from a lot of reading and corresponding with Chinese business people is that their their um, their ethical values are intertwined into their business relations, and a lot of those principles are Confucian in nature, and may seem kind of backwards to us Westerners, because we tend to separate the emotion and the relationships from the business aspect,
Mhm.
and for them it's all interrelated. And so I was able to use some of that prior knowledge and as leverage, and kind of getting my way, basically being able to communicate effectively with them, and being able to set up a good with my supplier agent, who I consider now a good friend. I have open invites to China to visit family in China, so that's very special, and it's something that you have to curate. It's not something that it happens instantaneously. You have to work at it, just like any relationship,
Mhm.
but it's something that is necessary if you want to be able to effectively communicate what you want for your business, what your goals are, what you want for your product. Um, and the only way to do that is to learn about the Chinese culture and be a student of that culture, and understand that they operate differently, and that our way of doing is not their way of doing things, and so we have to honor and respect that. And if we can do that, then both sides go further in the direction of meeting our business goals.
That's great. I like the philosophy. And I think that certainly has served you well in terms of helping to you know, to build a relationship with a supplier that's really helping you out. So let's discuss a little bit more about the sourcing aspect then. So are you
Sure.
are you using any type of inspection service, or because of this solid relationship, maybe you trust them, or what are you doing right now for that?
I I'm using Inspections by Kendra. So no, I don't use any inspection service. They basically, my supplier packs and ships everything for me. They have everything basically set up so they custom pack everything in a, double strength, cardboard cartons, and ship them by DHL Express to me to my door. And I open the cartons up and I, take them, all of them out, and I repack them into basically heavy duty 18 by 18 by 24 Home Depot boxes is what I use. And it's been quite effective. I mean, I haven't had any issues with damaged product. I have maybe, on average, I have maybe 10 damaged boxes, damaged units. I mean, just the outer carton, not the units themselves. And I,
Yeah.
I'll usually inspect from each box, each carton that comes to me. I'll inspect the top row of the first layer and the top row of the last layer, and in terms of the actual unit itself. And I have a little test I run, and I make sure that all the components are properly, working and there, and that there's not going to be any issue. And then I say inspected, and, and send them on their way to FBA. I mean, that's basically what I've been doing. And I just keep my inventory that they send to me kind of at a manageable level, because, it's a small, lightweight product. So I can have 1,000 sent to me, and it's not a big deal. I can repack those in a weekend and get them sent off. So by Monday, they're out.
Is that something you'll eventually stop doing after you get to a certain point, or what do you think you can like? If you're going to be scaling up, you're going to get to 6 products, then I'm assuming you're eventually going to run out of being able to do that yourself, or is
Yeah.
that something that you want to do?
Yeah. At this point, it's manageable. I figure by the time I get to 6 products, I'll be making enough that I won't have to worry about commitments to, another employer. So I'll have more time to manage that. But on the other hand, I am thinking about, the possibility of having an inspection service do it for me.
Yeah.
Getting to the point where I'm generating enough profit and revenue that it makes economical sense to me to do that. Right now, it doesn't. So I'm not doing it. But certainly by the
Okay.
time I get to a certain point, it's definitely going to be a consideration.
Okay. And we have a little bit of time left here, but I want to talk a little bit about, what your plan's going to be for the new products you're launching. So what are you planning on doing? Is there something specific that you have in mind? I know you're planning on sticking to the same niche for one, but you're also going to be in a relatively new niche for the other. But I'm curious about what the launching strategy you're going to be doing.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to do kind of the same thing I did last time, which was to hit up friends and family first, and then follow that up with kind of a review club promo wave of some sort right after that, and just do that for as long as it takes until I get my reviews in that I need. And for my second product that's related to my first product, I know that probably 15 to 20 will be adequate. For the one that's in a kind of a different category of itself, I'm not so sure what it's gonna take. So that one's gonna be kind of the unknown variable for me. I didn't do a review club for my first product, and I'm considering doing that for my second and third. I just I'm there's so many out there now, and with all the TOS changes and all that, I'm not so sure, which ones are legit and which ones aren't. I have a couple of mind, so I have kind of a short list, but I want to get them. I know that doing it the way I did last time took too long, and I really want to get them out as quickly as possible. So
Yeah.
I'll probably be utilizing review clubs this time around.
Yeah, that could be a topic for an entire episode
Definitely.
in the future, because it's something that people frequently email me about, asking questions and opinions on that. And well, just briefly for people who are listening, I'll say that I think that over the long run, Amazon is certainly going to favor more natural reviews. So reviews built from using an email type follow up service like SalesBacker,
Yeah.
or from other types of methods of getting those people, because I think that they just don't want the system to be gamed to the extent that it has been so far. Now, whether or not anything will change and when that will change is, of course, up in the air. And, at the time we're recording this and well, the first week of February.
Right.
But at the time we're recording the first week of February, I don't know if I'll have anything else to add to that, but yeah, it's interesting. So we'll see how that goes, I guess. And certainly, let us know how your launch goes, and maybe I'll send you the link, and you can of course come back and post in the comments to see how your strategy shifted or changed after we posted this. But I guess the only final thing is just if there's any parting tips for aspiring sellers or sellers that are further along the way. We have people of all different sizes listening, so let me know what you think.
Yeah, I guess my primary advice is just keep turtle powering. That's my motto, right? So, one little step at a time, and don't forget that there's a difference between being idle and being stagnant. And I think a lot of times people misconstrue the two. You can, a car can be an idle, but the engine's still running, right? It doesn't mean it's dead on the side of the road. So, as long as you are, doing something, either you're contemplating your business or, you're doing something that is bettering yourself and bettering your business and toward a goal that you have, that's all right. Taking it one little step at a time is always better than doing absolutely nothing at all, because I did nothing at all for a really long time, and it gets very old very quickly, and the scenery doesn't change very much, and you're not going to get any results, and you're certainly not going to get the results that you really want out of your life. And so if this is something that you want to do, if Amazon selling is something you really want to do, and it's definitely a great business model, it's something that, a lot of people can do easily, with very little startup. And I think that's it's one of the best ways of getting into any kind of business. Just take it one little step at a time, and you can go at your own pace, and it's so scalable. You can start with one product, and you can go at your own pace, and then in another, 6 months, you can add another product. Just go one step at a time, and you're going to see results. And I guess that's the only advice that I really have.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing about, what you've been doing in your business and your philosophy and some of the reasons behind why you're doing what you're doing, which I think is really the more compelling aspect of why people are building their businesses as well. So thanks so much for coming on and talking to us, Kendra.
Thank you.
All right, that was the episode with Kendra. I want to thank her again for coming on to share her experiences and her attitude about life and in business in general. And the other thing I want to point out is we have over 20 different interviews with other past sellers, people that are primarily focused on Amazon, people that are also focused on other platforms and then came to Amazon. And so we have everything in between from that range. And so you can go to sellercast.com, and that'll take you directly to a list of every episode we've done so far. It's been a lot of fun, and I've been enjoying doing the show. If you've liked it and you want to leave us a review, you can go to sellercast.com/iTunes. And additionally, if you want to be on the show, you can go to salesbacker.com/contact and send an email, and we'll make sure it gets to me, and I can talk to you about coming onto the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.